Hello and welcome to part 1 of Photoshop Beginners basic training videos, and my name is Alan Hopkins from Photoshop Beginners Blogspot. What we're going to be looking at first of all is the basic overview of the workspace itself. I'd like to just first of all say a couple of things. These videos are not to teach you how to be a designer, or an artist or anything. They are merely an introduction to the actual software program itself, and hopefully if you follow, and we will go through everything step by step, and hopefully if you follow the videos all the way through, by the end of this you'll know the things that I know, and I think you'll be just fine to go on from there. It's not that Photoshop is particularly difficult to learn, I don't think, but I think generally if you look around on the internet, and you'll see hundreds, thousands of tutorials out there, but what they mostly do is deal with specific designs or making a specific image or a specific effect, rather than actually teaching you how to use Photoshop itself. And as I said, we will start from the beginning here and go through the tools, the effects, filters, manipulations, and everything will be explained in detail, as I said, step by step, so that it's easy for a beginner to absorb and understand. I think it's probably essential really that you fire up your copy of Photoshop to run along with these tutorials so that you can practice as you go along. I'm going to be using Photoshop CS6. You can download a trial version from the Adobe site. You will need to open an account with Adobe for this, but this is just, you need to give them an email, and then you can try the program for a limited period. If you're using an older version of Photoshop, CS4 or CS5 or something, then 95% of these lessons will be absolutely fine. There's just a couple of new things that you won't be able to do without the upgrade, and I will highlight the fact that these are specific to CS6 when we get to them. Okay, let's begin then. First of all, I think the easiest way to explain the workspace from the beginning here is that it's actually divided up, really, I think, into 5 parts. First of all, you've got your tool panel, which you see here running down the left hand side. We'll come back to that in a second. You've got your options bar, which is this one you see running across here, and then above that you've got your menu bar. You've then got your panel dock down the right hand side here, and then in the middle you have your workspace. Okay, so first of all let's have a look at our tool panel. We can change the way it appears here by clicking on this little arrow. I prefer to have it running straight down the side as one, but I think for what I'm going to tell you next it's probably easier to put it like this. And what you will see is that the tools themselves are actually divided into groups, and you can see these groups by this. You see this line that runs across here that actually separates these groups. You see another one here, another one here, and there are 3 main groups. The first one that you see at the top here, these are the selection tools. Okay, that's these first ones here. Okay, the next group down are the painting and retouching tools. And then this group here are your vector tools, and then you have here your colour picker and the hand tool for moving the image, the zoom tool. This is a quick mask tool. All of these things we'll be dealing with in a lot more detail. One thing that is important to mention, I think, is you'll notice with most of these tools they do have a tiny little arrow down in the bottom right hand corner, and basically what this is telling you is that this tool, if you right click it, has multiple options. So for example, if we click say on the rectangular marquee tool there at the top, then if we right click on there, then we have these other options: elliptical marquee tool, single row marquee tool. So any of these tools that have a little arrow at the bottom right hand corner will give you hidden treasures, you could say. Okay, we will have whole videos dealing with the tool panel and how to use the individual tools. Okay, next up, this is the options bar. Now the options bar directly relates to the tool that is selected. So for example, if we select the brush tool there, you can see the brush tool now appears in the options bar, and the options bar will give you, as it suggests, various options with that particular tool. You might want to select a different brush there, for example. Okay, above this you see the menu bar, and this allows us, just for example, you might want to open a new document, which we'll do. You might want to use a filter. All of these things we'll be covering further along down the road in a lot more detail. So this is your menu bar. Okay, over here on the right hand side, this is the panel dock, I think is the correct name, and basically we can add or take things from the panel dock by using this window option here. So for example, if we look at styles, which we now have highlighted here, you can see the styles there in the panel, and if we deselect that, you'll see it's disappeared. Okay, so to reselect it, there we go, back it comes. Okay, so you have, I think here, selected the pretty much the default selections when you fire Photoshop up when it's new, and quite a few of that I've added down the side there. And you can, if you want, you can unlock these, drag them out, put them back again, and you might want to expand this other set of panels down the side here. I'd rather have them just as a line like this, but if you need them, if you need to expand them, you can. I think I would say that probably the most important option of all here is probably the layers panel, because I can't see that you could ever really do anything in Photoshop without having the layers panel to be used. And we will be going into things like the layers panel again in a lot more detail later on. One thing worth mentioning is, you see at the top here where it says essentials, this actually gives you workspace options. Now essentials is the basic default workspace layout, if you like, for Photoshop, and you can see there are different options here, and you might be wanting to do something in 3D, photography, etc., but you can also create your own customized workspace and actually save that workspace. So if we wanted, for example, to save this workspace that we have here, and we will be going into this in a bit more detail later, but if we wanted to save this workspace that you see now, we can go to Window, drop down to Workspace, New Workspace, give it a name, save it, and it would then appear up here with the rest of them. One other thing to mention is the disappearance in CS6 of the applications bar, which was with us in, I think, in CS4 and CS5, which gave you, for example, options at the top. You could go straight into Adobe Bridge, but as regards workspace, you also had an option to arrange your workspace. Let's just open up another document so I can show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so if for example we want to look at multiple documents, we now need to go to Window and drop down to Arrange, and then if we wanted, for example, to put them both side by side vertically like this, we can do. Okay, so that's about it really on the a basic overview of the workspace, and in the next part we will be looking at in a lot more detail at the Tools panel.